Ryanair could look for an alternative aircraft supplier to Boeing because of US tariffs. That was the warning from company CEO Michael O'Leary Thursday.
You would consider potentially stopping purchases of Boeing on this tariff risk and maybe look at Comac, the Chinese producer. Is that a realistic threat, really, Michael?
We interrupt with breaking news that has sent shockwaves through the European and American aviation sectors. Ryanair is threatening to cancel a colossal Boeing order valued at over $30 billion. This unprecedented move not only jeopardizes the long-standing partnership between these two industry giants, but also threatens to upend the global aviation market. The stakes could not be higher. This cancellation would deal a devastating blow to Boeing's revenue streams and could trigger a seismic shift in the balance of power within the aerospace industry. Why has Ryanair taken such a drastic stance? How deep could Boeing's losses run? And what does this mean for the fragile trade relations between Europe and the United States? The answers to these questions will shape the future of aviation as we know it. Ryanair's threat to cancel its massive Boeing 737 MAX order, valued at over $30 billion, is a drastic move fueled by the looming US tariffs that could sharply increase aircraft prices. CEO Michael O'Leary has made it clear that if these tariffs push costs higher, Ryanair will not hesitate to reconsider its entire Boeing commitment and look elsewhere, even at Chinese manufacturer Comac. This is not just a negotiation tactic, it's a direct challenge to Boeing and US trade policy, showing how trade wars can disrupt long-standing industry relationships. The potential losses for Boeing are staggering. This order alone represents nearly a year or more of Boeing's commercial airplane revenue, around $23 billion in 2024, and its cancellation would not only slash aircraft sales, but also wipe out lucrative long-term revenue streams from spare parts, maintenance, pilot training, and software upgrades tied to these planes. The ripple effect could empty production lines, tank Boeing's stock, and threaten thousands of US manufacturing jobs. Boeing's position is further weakened by instability in the Chinese market, making the Ryanair fallout even more critical. This development also has broader implications for the Europe-US trade balance. Ryanair, Europe's largest low-cost carrier, switching to Chinese aircraft would disrupt the Boeing-Airbus duopoly, shifting market power and production dynamics. It underscores how tariffs and trade conflicts can reshape global supply chains and alliances, with Europe potentially importing more from China and less from the US aviation sector. The stakes are high, and the fallout could redefine transatlantic trade relations in aerospace for years to come. Boeing's commercial airplane segment, which brought in about $23.2 billion in 2024, faces a looming crisis if Ryanair's massive $30 to $35 billion order is canceled. This deal, spread over 5 to 8 years, was expected to provide Boeing with a steady, multi-billion-dollar annual revenue stream, with Boeing's total revenue around $37.5 billion in 2024. Losing this contract would not just slash sales, it would devastate profit margins and cash flow in the medium term. Beyond the immediate loss of aircraft sales, Boeing stands to forfeit lucrative ancillary revenues from spare parts, maintenance contracts, pilot training, simulator services, and software upgrades, areas where the company traditionally earns higher long-term profits. The cancellation threatens to strip Boeing of these critical value-added services, compounding the blow to its coffers as it struggles to recover from past crises. Boeing now faces the grim reality that it could lose not only aircraft sales, but also the critical value-added services that generate higher long-term profits: pilot training, simulator services, software upgrades, and especially spare parts and maintenance contracts. These are the lifeblood of sustained revenue, and Ryanair's threat to cancel its $30 billion plus order puts all of this at risk. Analysts estimate Boeing stood to net around $20 billion in real income from this deal, translating into a profit of $5 to $7 billion after costs, with even conservative forecasts pegging net profits near $4 billion. If Ryanair pulls out, Boeing may never recover such profit potential from another customer anytime soon. This blow comes at a precarious time as Boeing is still reeling from the 737 MAX crisis. Adding fuel to the fire, the escalating US-EU trade war has sparked retaliatory tariffs, with Boeing caught in the crossfire. The European Union exports about $35 billion in aircraft parts to the US annually, while US aviation exports to Europe range between $20 and $25 billion. The fierce rivalry between Boeing and Airbus has been further poisoned by lawsuits over subsidies and tariffs, with Boeing repeatedly urging US authorities to resolve these disputes, arguing the tariffs ultimately harm the very customers they aim to protect. Ryanair's move exposes Boeing's vulnerability amid these tangled geopolitical and economic battles. Ryanair's CEO Michael O'Leary recently clashed with a US congressman, issuing a stark warning that if tariffs imposed by the US government push Boeing prices higher, Ryanair will not hesitate to cancel its massive $30 billion order for 330 Boeing 737 MAX jets. O'Leary threatened that the airline would turn to Chinese manufacturer Comac, whose C919 model, despite lacking European certification, is rumored to offer aggressively competitive pricing, backed by Beijing's full support. This move is seen as a direct challenge to the long-standing Boeing-Airbus duopoly and a bold step that could disrupt the global aerospace market. However, some experts suggest this may be a strategic bargaining chip by Ryanair to extract concessions from Boeing and influence EU-US trade policies. Yet, the airline's patience has been severely tested by Boeing's 737 MAX safety scandals and the volatile post-pandemic economic climate, which leaves Ryanair wary of rising costs and uncertainties. The threat to cancel is no idle bluff. Losing Ryanair, one of Boeing's largest European customers with over 4,000 pending 737 orders, would inflict a devastating financial and psychological blow on the American aerospace giant, jeopardizing not only aircraft sales, but also lucrative long-term revenues from spare parts and maintenance contracts. Experts warn that Boeing's shares could plunge between 5 and 10% as the company struggles to regain footing post-pandemic amid relentless supply chain headaches. The mounting pressures don't stop there. Escalating US-China tensions have thrown Boeing's foothold in the crucial Chinese market into jeopardy. Adding insult to injury, the cancellation by one of Boeing's largest European customers threatens to plunge the aerospace giant back into crisis mode. But Boeing isn't the only one caught in this storm. Ryanair, heavily reliant on the Boeing 737 family for its entire fleet, faces a perilous gamble. The airline's infrastructure, from pilot training to spare parts and maintenance, is intricately tied to Boeing's planes. A sudden pivot to Chinese aircraft would demand a complete overhaul of logistics and training systems, a daunting and years-long process, given the European Aviation Safety Agency's slow certification and testing. Ryanair's willingness to take this risk suggests it may be calculating that the cost of US tariffs outweighs the chaos of switching suppliers. Yet, the contract with Boeing is laden with penalty clauses that could cost billions if Ryanair cancels outright. The airline might attempt to invoke force majeure, blaming unforeseen tariff hikes from trade wars, but the contract's details remain shrouded in secrecy. This is no simple business decision. Ryanair must navigate a complex legal and financial minefield. Canceling abruptly risks severing a decades-long relationship with Boeing, potentially alienating other European carriers who might follow suit. Given that over 40% of the EU's aviation trade is with the US, Boeing's strategic position in Europe hangs by a thread. Should Ryanair pull out, it could trigger a domino effect, deepening Boeing's crisis and reshaping the future of transatlantic aviation. Boeing's management nightmare is far from over. Analysts warn that other European giants like Lufthansa, EasyJet, and Air France are quietly reacting to the US tariffs, even if they haven't yet made such bold threats as Ryanair. But if these punitive customs policies persist, more cancellations are inevitable. At the heart of this storm is the rising Chinese factor. Thanks to massive state subsidies and aggressive technology transfers, Comac's C919 now stands toe-to-toe with Boeing's 737 MAX and Airbus's A320neo in range, capacity, and fuel efficiency. Should Ryanair place a serious order for Comac jets, it would crack open the door for Chinese aircraft to invade the European market amid escalating trade tensions with the US. The European Union, under pressure, might even greenlight closer aviation cooperation with China, an alarming prospect for Boeing and Airbus alike. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and support us by liking this video.